Hey guys, it's Cthulthu here. So today in this video, or rather in this podcast, or whatever you want to call it, I'm going to be talking about an extremely interesting article that Jagex posted today as an announcement. I will be discussing the announcement in this video, but I'll also be telling you what the update will involve. If you've read the announcement, you'll know that it is very vague and it doesn't actually tell you what will be included in the update, but that's where I'll be able to fill you in, because I've seen the teasers and I've read the announcement and I have a very, very good idea of what Jagex will be doing to this game in the next month. So firstly, the announcement itself, it's entitled The Evolution of Combat, and basically Jagex intend to overhaul the combat system in order to make it more fluid, more interactive and more exciting. So firstly, the beta test. So there will be a beta test that will start on the 25th of June. You will almost definitely have to be a member to participate in the beta test. So if you don't have membership currently, then I suggest you start saving money, because you're going to want to be a member on the 25th of June to participate in the beta test. It's probably a very good idea by Jagex to have it tested by us, because this is probably going to include a lot of bugs, and also it's something they should really let us vote on, because it's going to make such a huge difference to the way we play RuneScape that it's something that they need to make sure that it is popular the way it is. And if it's not popular enough, then it should get changed before an official update is made. But I'm really looking forward to the beta update. But yeah, that's what Jagex have told us, that there's going to be an overhaul of the combat system, but they haven't actually defined what changes will be taking place. Now, as I've told you, I have seen the teaser pictures, which probably only a few people have seen, and I have a very good idea of what is going to be happening. My assumption, and I think this is not just an assumption, I think this is factual, there are going to be action bars in the game of RuneScape. Now, if you don't know what an action bar is, then you only have to look at pretty much any MMORPG out there, like Star Wars, like World of Warcraft, like Rift, any of those major MMORPGs that I've played myself, so I know that it's going to be that type of action bar. But yeah, an action bar is something that you usually find on one of those games at the bottom center of the screen, and it usually has 10 slots, and all of these slots can hold a certain attack style or attack action. For example, I don't know, the first action bar could hold an auto attack function, and then the second one could have a healing function, the third one could have a stun function, and you know, functions like that on your action bar, and you can activate them not just by clicking them, but also by using your keyboard. Usually the hotkeys for action bars are the numerical ones, so from number 1 to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 9, and then 0 to activate the action bar functions. And then to give you an idea of what you might see in game, so let's use magic, because that's probably the easiest comparison to make. So instead of having the spellbook page, well, you'll still have a spellbook page, but instead of having the spellbook page where you have to right click and set something to autocast, and then if you want to change spell, you have to then select another spell to autocast, or you could just manually use them. You could click on a spell and then use it on the NPC or the player, and then select another spell and use it on the NPC again. So those are the two ways that you perform magic right now in this game. However, what will happen in this game is now you'll be able to assign something like Ice Barrage to a certain, well, to the action bar. And because you're assigning it to the action bar, you'll also be assigning it to a certain hotkey, again one of the numerical keys. So for example, if I set Ice Barrage as on the first action bar slot, then I will be able to activate that spell by clicking 1 on my keyboard. And in that way, instead of having to click on the spell, like I said, instead of having to do the manual stuff, or instead of having to change your autocast, I'll be able to click 1 on my keyboard, and that will make me use Ice Barrage on my target. And then I'll be able to press 2, and maybe 2 will activate me to use Blood Barrage, and maybe 3 will activate Miasmic Barrage, and maybe 4 will activate a certain teleport that will take me away from that battle situation. And also you can assume that there will be a lot of new actions that you'll be able to perform with the release of the action bar. So maybe staffs will be given a new special attack. Maybe a Saradomin Strike, whatever the staff happens to be called. I'm going to assume it's called a Saradomin Staff. maybe that will be given a special attack that I'll be able to use every 10 seconds. That will have a cooldown, and maybe that will give me an extra 20% damage on a normal Saradonian strike or something like that. Or maybe it will temporarily stun my opponent or reduce its magic defense or something like that. Another way you can imagine the system in terms of, let's say, melee from now on. So the only two functions you really have for melee right now is an auto attack and a special attack that is unique to your weapon. So let's imagine those are the first two actions that you have on your attack bar. So the first one, you click 1 and you perform your auto attacks as normal. You click 2 and you use the special attack on that weapon. Maybe if you click 3 on the action bar, then you switch weapons. So instead of having to click the weapon on your inventory, maybe clicking 3 on your action bar, the ability that would be on the third slot for the action bar, maybe that will make you switch weapons, and then you can click 4 to actually perform that unique special attack on that weapon. But yeah, then you can also assume new kind of ability. So for example, the way that we have crush, slash and defense, but also the way we have those new bolts, I think they're called backrill bolts or something like that. I don't know how they're spelt, so I don't know how to pronounce it. But you can target opponent's head, torso and feet. And let's assume that they have that system transferred to the melee system for the action bar as well. So maybe, let's say, my hotkeys 5, 6 and 7 are assigned to certain ways of attacking. So maybe if I click 5, then my melee auto attacks will start hitting, will start targeting their head, and maybe I have now a certain percent chance of stunning them. Or maybe I can use the stun and it will work 100% of the time, but it will have a cooldown, so I won't be able to use that same action for another minute or so. And then maybe if I click 6 on my keyboard, then I will target their torso, and that will do 150% of the damage. Maybe it'll do critical damage. And then again, that has a cooldown, because I mean that would be used quite a lot if it was that powerful. And then maybe 6 will attack their hands. That's not something that's currently in the game, but maybe attacking hands would decrease their attack speed. So that's what an action bar is, and those are the kind of things I can imagine being on your attack bar. Those kind of actions where you can stun an opponent, where you can do critical damage on an opponent, where you can maybe attack their attack speed, lower their defense, lower their magic damage, something like that. Who knows? But there's lots of ways of looking at it. Maybe something about melee will also, maybe you'll have an attack that does AoE damage. So maybe you'll be able to spin around with your sword and you'll be able to attack everyone around you. I don't know, something like that. I mean, that's the kind of spell you would see in a normal MMORPG. Whether they want to implement something like that into RuneScape for those multi-combat situations, I don't know. But that's something that you can think about. And then also, what else? So of course, with this kind of update, there are lots of other things that you can associate with a action bar. Firstly, you need to associate the actual abilities that you use on the action bar. Usually in a game like World of Warcraft, you would unlock those abilities by reaching certain levels. Those certain levels usually give you these points, and these points can then be spent on a talent tree. So in a game like Rift or World of Warcraft, you have these talent trees, and by following a certain route, you unlock certain spells, certain actions. And these are the kind of actions, and this is the kind of system I would imagine being associated with the action bar. However, Jagex don't have to go down that route if they don't want to. Maybe everybody will get the same actions regardless, so there's still a certain level of equality. And you unlock those spells by just simply getting a certain level of attack or strength or defense. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe you have to complete a certain quest in order to unlock a certain ability. So Jagex could be unique in that kind of way. But yeah, in most other MMORPGs, you usually get a talent tree where you have to follow a certain tree line and you get a certain type of attack ability. Other things that you can imagine coming with the action bar are things like macros. So for example, instead of you having to manually control your character, maybe you can have macros where if you're below a certain amount of health, then you will automatically cast some sort of heal upon yourself, whether it's eating food or whether it's, I don't know, using a magic spell, using a healing spell. If Jagex want to implement that kind of thing into the game, they don't even have to implement that kind of thing into the game because it already exists in the what's it called, Moonclan spells. They have that kind of heal spell, don't they? But maybe a more outright heal spell that you can use on yourself. Maybe they could implement that kind of thing. But then again, you can go backwards. You can think of it purely from a RuneScape kind of point of view. So instead of having all these actions, maybe clicking 4, 5, 6 on your keyboard will just make you eat the shocks that you put in those slots. Maybe those slots will have for example, usually when you play a game like World of Warcraft, I would usually have the last 2 slots on the action bar hold health and mana potions. So maybe in RuneScape regards, maybe 9 and 0 for me. Well, 9 will hold maybe a prayer potion, and 0 will hold an overload. And so every time I need to use an overload, instead of having to click the overload in the inventory, I just click 0 on my keyboard and I drink that overload. And in that way, it is a lot more engaging. You don't have to worry about using your mouse. You just use your keyboard. But yeah, the way that Jagex have explained it themselves, the way they want it to be more engaging, you have to assume that it's not just going to be like that. You're not just going to associate a certain key function with sharks or something like that, or whatever food you're using. But it's going to be a lot more in depth, and it's going to involve a lot more new abilities. That's what I'm assuming from this update. But yeah, you will also, you'll have macros. So for example, I don't know. No, sorry, you won't have macros, but that's the kind of thing you could also expect them to bring out. They might not do, but it's something that you could always imagine them bringing out. So for example, you set a macro that makes you use an overload every 5 minutes. Except for maybe you could add a few more commands saying that, unless I'm in this situation, if I'm in a situation where I've got 600 HP, then you can cancel the order to use overload. Only use overload every 5 minutes if I'm above a certain amount of health. Those kind of macros you can involve into RuneScape. So yes, the one thing I know for sure, I can't say that I know it, but the one thing that I think is certain is that Jagex will be bringing out action bars. What they bring out along with action bars is anyone's guess. They could bring out macros. They could bring out, new actions. They could bring out talent trees. They could do so much with this update, but what they'll actually do, who knows? And we have plenty of time to think about it, because it'll be 6 weeks until the beta starts. And I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully I've made you excited about this update as well. The only thing I will say about it is, though, even though it makes skilling a lot more interesting, PvP a lot more interesting, it might be a bit of a drag to have to use that same system in regards to things like Slayer. So, for example, I like having to auto-attack Slayer NPCs and then just doing whatever I'm doing, watching a video, etc. You guys know me to be lazy. But, I can imagine that it'll be far more efficient to actually engage into the game and concentrate on what you're doing. Because if you do have abilities that do maybe like 150% of normal damage, then you'll want to use those abilities as often as possible. And that will make the game far more engaging, but at the same time it'll make the game far less AFKable. Because you'll want to engage in the game, you'll want to be efficient, you'll want to do as much damage as possible, and you won't be happy with just doing an auto attack. And that's what it might turn out to be. I mean, how many of you have played games like World of Warcraft and just attack an NPC and then just, kill it using auto attacks? Very few people do that. Most people will use every single ability they have available to them. So that's my only concern. It might make Slayer it might require a bit more effort to do Slayer from now on, because I don't know if I'll be able to balance the need to AFK with the need to do as much damage as possible. Anyway, we'll see how it goes, guys. Give this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. Also, there will be a link in the description that will take you to a Zephyr thread. It does have links to the actual teaser pictures. And it will probably have a lot more, and there'll be a good discussion. So yeah, discuss it in the comments, discuss it on the thread, whatever you fancy. And who knows, I might have a follow-up video for this, but we'll see. Thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, see you around.